On September 12th, the Horticulture 1101 class went to Dilmun Hill Organic Student Farm and Ag Experiment Station. Dilmun Hill is 1.5 acres in size. It's an experimental learning area focused on methods of sustainable agriculture. Many heirloom and unusual crops are planted here. It was first made in the 1860s as a barn for Ezra Cornell's daughter. Originally, it was a dairy operation. We met with two managers, Emily and Tessa. Dilmun Hill provides sustainable agriculture education and outreach to Cornell University and its community members. The first thing we looked at was the raised bed section. The raised bed section is designated to help grow both early and late season crops. Due to the deer population living on campus, they need to put a mesh netting over top of the crops. Some crops include scallions, potatoes, and carrots, just to name a few. In the raised bed, the compost being used is actually from the Cornell dining facilities. Dilmun Hill also supplies the dining facilities with some crops. It's a really cool cycle because Dilmun supplies the food we eat, and in turn, we supply the compost. They also sell in the Cornell Farmers Market, which happens on the Ag Quad every Thursday.
Dilmun Hill has 5 hives of honeybees that were captured by the Cornell University Bee Club. This club is headed by several graduate students and is brand new. The bees are a great addition to the farm because they are natural pollinators for the fruit crops, and they also provide honey which can be sold by the Dilmun Hill farms. Dilmun Hill also focuses on the production and harvesting of several different fruit types such as strawberries, pawpaw, and hardy kiwis. The day-neutral strawberries are currently blossoming and should be ready for harvest in the next couple of weeks. The late frosts this year harmed most of the fruit with the exception of the pawpaw trees. Pawpaws are native to this area and they are used to the cold. They are the only original North American tree fruits. The market garden is responsible for the majority of the vegetables for sale. The land use for the market garden is on a 9-year rotation cycle by family to minimize the chance for disease in soil and minimize the effects of pests. The fields in this area that have not been planted with crops have sorghum sudan grass growing on it as a cover crop to give the soil a break and so the crops do not deplete the nutrients in the soils. The grass is cut and left as a biomass to degrade. No spray is used nor any chemical control methods at Dilmun Hill Farms. The irrigation system consists of main water lines on the outside of the gardens and then drip lines that go down every row to water the crops. It is completely fenced in order to keep the deer out. Kale was just recently harvested, however flea beetles were a problem this year due to the extensive drought. In order to keep the beetles off the crops, row cover was used. Once the row cover was off of the kale, it is no longer able to be used. The fence encompasses 7 acres of land, 2 of which are used for production purposes. On site, rye is milled into flour and hazelnuts are grown as research. They keep track of the size, thickness, and amount by type of hazelnut. This is done to see which grows best here.
At the Growing Mosaics garden, perennial flowers, herbs, fruits, and nuts are growing together in polycultures, mutually beneficial plant groups. Winding paths go around many beds filled with permaculture crops. Permaculture refers to the self-sustaining agriculture. At Dilmun, they are currently experimenting with the permaculture principles of polycultures, layering, multiple functions, and diversity. Over time, the garden will develop into a self-sustaining system which demonstrates these principles and qualities and contributes to Dilmun Hill, Cornell, and the larger permaculture community.
Within the mosaics, we found the 3 sisters, or corn, beans, and squash, which all use each other. The beans grow up the stalk of the corn, and the squash provides ground cover to prevent weeds. For 3 years in a row, the Growing Mosaics garden managers have applied for and received grants from the Towards Sustainability Foundation. These grants have funded 2 full-time student managers during the summer and have paid for plants and other organic materials.
In the mosaics, they're using a raised bed system because the soil is tainted with arsenic from pesticide use in orchards from the 1950s. Also in the permaculture garden, they're trying to develop a self-sustaining mushroom system. Mushrooms require a moist, dark area to grow. By growing hops on a trellis system, the mushrooms are provided with a damp area to grow in. Finally, we finish our trip with experience of picking vegetables and weeding for 30 to 45 minutes. We picked vegetables including peppers, tomatoes, kale, and beans. This was cool because these crops are now being sold by Dilmun. We also weeded around the beans and carrots to help ensure that the weeds were not becoming invasive with the growing of the crops.
All in all, this lab was pretty cool. It was a beautiful September day and we got to spend it in a beautiful garden. It was a great experience that the entire class seemed to enjoy. Dilmun Hill is a great project run by Cornell students that benefits not only the campus, but the Ithaca community as well. Students were encouraged to become involved with Dilmun Hill. And Rozzy, don't forget, no eating more than you harvest.
No eating more than you harvest. No eating more than you harvest. No eating more than you harvest.